Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over some items and we're going to start with this tray or cloche or whatever you want to call it. This is, I ordered these from a wholesale place in Texas called Galton Wholesale. And they always need, or most often they need a little work. So this one, I don't know what this little knob thing was on top. I guess it was supposed to be decorative, but there wasn't anything decorative about that. And I've already did a little bit of extra painting on this because there was a lot of neutral on it, and I didn't like the neutral down the sides of those four little arms, so I painted some on it, but I didn't paint full coverage. And then I replaced that top with the top of an old bedpost or something like that. This is one that I had in my stash, and I'm not certain that's where it came from, but it was perfect for the top of this. And I love the contrast. So I wanted to do something to soften the contrast a little bit and make this go together well. So I thought this cotton from the transfer set from Dixie Belle called On the Farm was the perfect choice, because it'll have that darker in the cotton and also the white, and it brings these two colors together so well. And I'm just kind of randomly placing it here and there on each side so that each area has a little bit of interest without overdoing it. But I also thought I wanted to continue that contrast down to the bottom, so I found some other little posts in my stash that I could cut up and make legs from that were that same finish. So that's what I did, was I glued those four on the bottom with some tight bond glue, and then I added a screw down through the top to make it secure. And I didn't mention that I also glued the post on the top with some tight bond, and then came up through underneath with a screw to make it more secure. And then I just did some light distressing to soften those corners more, and then sprayed this with a clear matte finish. And I just love how it turned out. I think it's absolutely perfect for my home, except that I don't have room for it. So otherwise it would be going home with me. But this is a rather large tray, so you really need to have plenty of space. But I think it will display well through fall and even into Christmas. I can make this work if it doesn't sell before then. And then I made over this little wooden bowl, and this is how it comes, also from the same place. And but I wanted to brighten it up a little bit, so I put one coat of the color cotton over this, and then added just a touch of this transfer. And because I have all those curves in it, I'm going to have to cut this into 3 pieces, and then even cut slits into each piece before I transfer it on. But that's the great thing about transfers, is you can cut them into pieces, and as long as you know how to put them back together, then they go together really seamlessly. So I'll put this transfer on and then lightly sand it and just hit those high spots, and that will add some of that wood tone back through and make this go together even better. And then once I get this transferred on, then I put one coat of a clear matte finish over the top of this. And I think I used Rust-Oleum, which is what I used on the first project also. And I don't think that the clear coat is really that important, what brand you use. I just use whatever I can find that's on sale when I'm not using the Dixie Belle. So again, this is going to display well through fall especially, but even into Christmas. And speaking of which, I'm going to forewarn you guys ahead of time that it won't be long at all till I'm going to have to start my Christmas ornaments and decor. And I know that it's very early, but as crafters, we have to start early so that we can have plenty. And I'm going to do my Christmas open house again this year, and I've skipped it for a couple of years, so I need to make sure that I have plenty of stock. So I hope you guys don't get aggravated that I have to do this way ahead of time. Now, this was a box, as you could see. It had a yellowy look to it with some red in it, and I didn't like the color, so I sprayed this with 2 coats of Rust-Oleum Linen White, and it still didn't fully cover, but I didn't mind because I like that really distressed look, and I was happy with the colors that came through. Now this, you couldn't take it out of this rack. It had to be screwed on to stay in place well, but even unscrewing that, you couldn't take this box out. There was just no way to get it out. So I ended up spraying it all together, and that's why I decided just everything would be white and just leave a little bit of distressing so that it had more of a rustic look to it. But I want this to go in that same vignette, so I am using the Cotton and Eucalyptus set from Dixie Belle. And this was my intention for the other piece, and then I decided I didn't want the eucalyptus added to that one, so I can make these 2 work together. So this was very tedious to try to transfer this because, again, you couldn't remove this wire, so I just had to kind of work around that and add just a little bit of that transfer to one side of the front, and then when I turned it over to the back, I did the other side of the back. And then, as you can see, it had screw places in the front and on both sides and on the back. And I needed to cover that up, so I glued one of the molds from the IOD mold called Birdsong. And I have some of these made up ahead with resin, and then I just glued some of those on. And then I added some bronze or some gold gilding wax. And then I decided I also wanted to use some of the bronze patina paint from Dixie Belle. And that way I could just take my finger and add just a little bit of the patina spray in the green. I didn't want it to get on anything else, so I just sprayed a little bit in a container and then dipped my finger in it and just kind of rubbed it here and there on the bird. And then I sprayed everything with a clear matte spray, and this is how it turned out. And at this point, the patina spray hadn't had time to activate and add any green to that mold. But I really like how this turned out. I think it is much better than the way I thrifted it. And this is a good time for me to do some containers because with fall and Christmas coming up, I'm going to need containers for pumpkins, and then closer to Christmas, my ornaments. And now this magazine rack, this Wicker magazine rack, I thrifted this, and it was just this bright white, so I sprayed it with 2 coats of linen white to tone it down some, and now I'm adding the bird molds to this, and I'm just going to do this on the front and the back. I'm not going to add any to the sides, and I'm going to keep this one neutral. And the reason, again, is because I want to be able to display items for fall and Christmas in this one. But I felt like it needed a little more than just a coat of paint and those molds. So I decided to add some greenery to the top. And I just added some lamb's ear and some little white berries. And then I tied a bow around the top with some cotton ribbon, and again I just kept this very simple. but it has enough color so that it will go in my vignette. And I'm just keeping this very simple and making a little double bow and just kind of wired that on with the little spray that I made. And then I just added some little flowers that a viewer sent me, and it was the perfect touch to the center of the bow. And I think that took a very plain wicker magazine rack and made it very soft and elegant. And now I'm going to add a fall craft to the end of this one. And my husband had found some landscape timbers on sale at Lowe's because they were all warped. And I think he just paid $1 each for them and cut them up into different sizes and drilled a hole in the top and put a stick down in it to make a pumpkin. And we just painted these. And now I'm going to add some of this transfer to a couple of these and make them a little pumpkin set. So these are some of the easiest pumpkins to make. And for me, this style sells really well. And sometimes I'll make these in sets of 3 and sometimes in sets of 2 and then sometimes even just a single pumpkin. And these can also, which I've done in the past, be made from a 4x4. And they make good little pumpkins also, but they are more expensive than the landscape timbers. So I think the landscape timbers give this a softer look because you have those rounded edges, and I just think it looks more like a pumpkin. These work really well to decoupage fall napkins on, and also they look really good painted in different colors. Like maybe you would have a set of the orange like you see to the side there, and then maybe a light turquoise and white. Those that makes a pretty set. But I just do all kinds of these, and it's just something that I can quickly do. And in this case, because he bought these so cheap this time, something that I have very little money in. And this is my first time using this cotton and eucalyptus transfer set, and I love these colors together because you get the warmth of the brown and white, and then that the blue in the leaf is just a really pretty color combination. This would also work really well on a light turquoise, like maybe a sea glass pumpkin. So I don't generally measure what size my pumpkins are. I just kind of cut them in different lengths. And if I'm going to do a set of 3, then I just do a little bit, one a little bit taller than the other one, and then one a little taller than that until it makes the set. And again, I'm going to just do a set of 2 on this one. And when my husband made these, to save me some trouble, he went ahead and spray painted all of them orange. So some of them I was able to just do some distressing on and keep them orange. And then some of them I painted over the top of it. And then when I distressed, it brought some of that orange back, which I think is a really pretty look. And also, if you white wax over the top of orange, it makes a really pretty muted orange, so you can change it up that way also. I think that when it comes to crafting, this is my favorite time of the year. And I know, again, that many of you will get sick of seeing Christmas, even fall this early, but definitely Christmas. But I don't have any choice. And either I just do it and don't film it, or I just go ahead and film it. And for those of you who have booths or stores, you really, just like me, need to be making sure that you're going to have Christmas stock. And if you make the majority of what you have, then you have to do that. So But even for those of you who don't have stores or even booths, if you're like me, I like to plan ahead, and you're not going to just start decorating for Christmas and make it as you go, because if you do, you're not going to have much. So when you craft something, you just have to do it ahead of time. But the reason I say that it's my favorite time of year for crafting is because there's just so much that you can do for Christmas. And I'll just be laying awake at night thinking about new crafts to do, new ornaments to try, or maybe I'll watch something that someone else does, and I'll think of something that I could do to change it up and make it my own. And it just, to me, it's just a time where creativity just seems to flow much easier. And I've talked to many of you that have gone through trials, maybe losing someone, or depression, or health issues, and crafting is so therapeutic. Anytime that you can create something beautiful, I think it just does your soul good. And so a lot of people in the wintertime start to get depressed because of the weather, and I do somewhat, but because I'm able to do a lot more crafting in the winter, it really is very helpful to me. So now, because I have this eucalyptus on here and it has that bluish look to it, then I found some greenery that slightly mimics that. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to bring those colors up. And so I just glued some bits of a pick that I found in that color, and just added those to the top. And the leaf shape is not the same here, but the color is very close. So again, it really isn't super important exactly the kind that you use. You just want something to kind of mimic what is in the transfer. And because these are just very small pieces, I'm able to just use plenty of hot glue and glue those in place. And then once I added my greenery, then I found some little berries that kind of, to me, remind me of mistletoe berries, and glued those to the top also. Now, a lot of times with these, I will tie some scraps of fabric around it and let it hang down, but that's not the look that I wanted for these. So after I added these little bits at the top, then I didn't feel like I wanted anything else, except that there is a little extra white space on the smaller pumpkin. So I stamped some scripture on a piece of tissue wrap and tore that out and decoupaged that on the front. So I finished these off with a clear coat, and that's all that I did to them. Now, I noticed I got a package in the mail today, and there's a hang tag with it. I didn't get to film that and get that on with this one, but I will add that in the next one. I know that I have to have the absolute sweetest viewers, and I hope that every one of you know how deeply I appreciate you, and I'm just amazed when you guys send your hang tags and even packages. I just never expected such generosity, and again, I hope that you guys know that I deeply, deeply appreciate everything that you do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.